Hey everybody, it's Old Man Bull Market back with another very exciting Marvel Contest of Champions YouTube video. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different. No rank up video, no gameplay video. No, this time I'm actually going to peel back the surface of the game and we're going to actually have a look at all the champs that are in the game. Now, we're not going to look at every single one because that will take forever. What I mean is we're going to have a discussion. Well, I'm going to chat and you can comment, of course, down on the comments below. So that's going to be very helpful. But I'm going to just bring up about MCOC by the numbers. So we're going to break down where the game is currently at with the total number of champions in the game, and then just sort of have a bit of a look-see at the various categories that are in the game. And then from that, I'm going to put my 2 cents worth in about framing, what are probably good champs to cater against those various conditions, let's say. I'm not pretending they are because this is a very complex game. There's a lot of different modes that we all have to play through. Battlegrounds, Alliance War, assuming that ever works. Alliance Quest, we've got Story Quest, you've got the monthly quests, and then, side quest events that come in as well. So there's a whole heaps of different moving parts in this game, but let's just have a look at the numbers. So on that basis, let's tuck into that now. So let's really get into it. Okay, now this data is basically from the Aunt May website that basically has all the various data about the current state of the game in the sense of, the champs, and you can find out prestige and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of you people that play the game would probably be aware of the website. You've probably been to it for a couple of times. I know other people refer to it as well. So that's where I'm basing my data. The date of this particular video is the 2nd of August 2023. So it's our current snapshot of the game. As we know, every month we get 2 new champs get added into the game. So obviously totals will change. So let's just start with what we know right now. So right now there are 252 champions in the game. Of those 252, 151 of the champions, or nearly 60% of them, are hero tagged. 77 champions out of the 252, or around about 30.5%, are villains. We then have 11 what I call unaffiliated champs. They're just not noted as hero or villain or mercenary. So they're about 4%. And then, of course, the mercenary crowd represent 13 champs out of 252, which is roughly about 5%. So that's just the general breakdown there in terms of the 252. Now, of course, we all know in the game there are 6 particular classes. So we'll just start with science class. There are currently 42 science champs out of the 252. So around about 16.6% of the game is in science. Skill champions, there are 43 of those, and they represent just over 17% of the game. The mutant class is 41, and that's a little bit around 16.25% of the 252 champs. Tech champs is also 41, so the same as mutant, so 16.25%. The cosmic class is currently the biggest class. 46 champs come from the cosmic class, and they're about 18.25% of the entire game is the cosmic class, and the final class is mystic class, and there are 39 of those out of 252, basically 15.5%. So that's just getting the current breakdown on the 6 various classes. Now, other information that I think is just something, you'll all be basically aware of. You probably just couldn't put the actual number on. But I just thought this is the purpose of the video, to put some solid numbers, because, the math is accurate, and because it's a number count. It's counting exactly what they are. So right at the moment, of the 252 champs in the game, 30 champions are 100% bleed immune, and that represents just shy of 12% of the game. There are 38 champions that are 100% poison immune, and they represent 15% of the game. 15 champs are both poison and bleed immune. That means 100%. We're not worrying about the fact there are a whole bunch of champs that have slight percentages of immunity. We're talking about, again, 100%. And obviously that 15%er is champions that are predominantly robots and certain other particular ones like Iceman and, Dragon Man and things like that. And for what will become apparent as we progress through the video, there's currently only 4 champs that I could conclude in the game that are both bleed and incinerate immune. So that's rather interesting. I'm sure over time that will change. Now, in terms of the contact that's made, because it's a fighting game and obviously we're fighting each other, the vast majority of the contact in the game is via physical contact. So in other words, it's a slap, a punch, whatever we're doing. So 215 of the 252 champs use physical contact. That's 85 and a third % of the game. Then we have 37 champs that use energy contact. So that's obviously important, as we'll see in terms of how that interacts with various champs. So they're just shy of 15% of the game there. And then out of that energy group, 13 of them are Mystic, because Mystic classes are often an energy class in terms of their contact. So out of the 37 in total that are energy contact, 13 are Mystic. And then, of course, the balance are from other classes. Champions like Magneto or some of the robots and that sort of thing that use, energy damage in terms of when they put it together. And one thing, I just going back to the immunity side of things, I mentioned that there's only 4 champs that are both bleed and incinerate immune, but there are 25 champs that are 100% incinerate immune as well. So it's just shy of 10%. Sorry, I should have brought that in before I went to the combination. Anyway, this is what happens when you're doing a video. You do it on the fly and you just try and get it all together and all that stuff. So what I'm now going to talk about is on those particular stats, let's look at some notable champs. Now, again, this is my opinion. And this is not meant to be, taken therefore as absolutely gospel, 100%, you got to take it to the bank. But I think if you have an open mind, you'll generally agree with what I mentioned makes sense in terms of, the optimum champ. And there's always going to be more than one. But again, it's really just to get you thinking about it. And of course, please comment below because we really like to keep this going and build from this. It could be something that down the track I can do another video of, maybe in a year's time when there's obviously 24 more champs in the game and we rebalance things. But notable champs that to look at would be Red Mags, which has the unique metal tag. And what I didn't mention when I was going through the numbers is in the game of 252 champions, 82 of them, or 32.5%, are metal tag champions. So therefore, Red Mags and White Mags have a big advantage over those particular champions with just how their interactions are. So if you've obviously discovered that you're up against an opponent and they're a metal tagged opponent, then you should always be thinking, should I be having Red Mags or White Mags in this particular fight, just to make it a little bit easier. So you can see what I'm getting at. We're just trying to frame up where we wanted to go with which directions. It's like, we've got a cupboard here and we're opening it up, and what's the, what are we going to grab to counter this the best? So in this instance there, that particular 2 champs work really well, particularly Red Mags. As you know, if it's up against a robot, he just decimates them. It's quite funny to watch. Now, the Mystic and Energy Contact classes, if we can call that, there are 63 all up. So we're taking the Mystic class and then the class that does contact energy damage, putting them together and then just removing any double counts that are also Mystic, because we don't want to double count them. So we have 63 of those currently in the game. It's exactly 25% of the game Mystic and Energy class. Now, something right now should be going in your mind. Who is the best champ to just annihilate these? And it's Human Torch, because that's his kit. You just got to read his kit, and you're up against Mystics. It's like, thanks mate, just keep fueling me up. I'll get Smolders, I'll get onto Nova Flame, and they're basically finished. Unless you're playing a particular mode in the game that has certain nodes that sort of can blunt Human Torch against that. Maybe the opponent is also, contact and bleeds happening, so that'll, diminish, Human Torch. We're just taking it on the basics of these are the opponents that have these characteristics. This is the natural counter to all that, and Human Torch just nails it. And we can see that particularly in a variety of fields within the game. You're playing Battlegrounds and your opponent throws up, Dr. Doom, and you happen to have, Human Torch in your side, you go him all the time, because you'll just melt down, Dr. Doom so quickly, and I could go on. Now, I also like to bring in synergies, particular certain ones, and there are many, many synergies in this game. And I'm not going to, by all means, scratch the surface on all of them. These are just ones that I've come across that I seem to like, and they're quite notable. So one particular synergy that's pretty cool at the moment, and a lot of people should be familiar with, is the synergy around Agent Venom. The one that if he's got Scorpion on his team and he's also got Craven on his team, then he just can apply a ton of bleed and incinerate debuffs on the opponent, and you can just really tear them up. So if we go back through the data, 252 champs, if we take out those that are incinerate immune and those that are bleed immune, and just remove any of the double counts, we actually have at the moment 201 champs who aren't bleed and incinerate immune. So that means he's very effective against basically nearly 80% of the field. Now, again, if you're playing a story quest and you're using him and the nodes, take out the bleed effect or the incinerate effect, it's going to blunt him a bit. So we're always going to be mindful of that. But if you're in a normal scenario and you're just up against certain opponents, and you can obviously have that minimum, 3 in your team, great. He just destroys the people that he goes up against. It's a lot of fun, and I'm sure those of us who've played the game for a while can look up pretty easily a whole bunch of gameplay videos. I myself will do one. I recently took my Agent Venom to rank 4, and I'm known for doing silly stuff. Everyone laughed at me when I took my Wolverine to rank 5 and sigged him to 200. And but I never regret that, because as I'm now going to jump into as a good little segue here, is you take Horseman Wolverine, and that means we've had to have Apocalypse on our side. Apocalypse has got to be ramped up with these 4 charges, and then you can apply, the Horseman buff onto any mutant champ. But he particularly has a very, very good relationship with Wolverine, because it then makes Wolverine a horseman, which then Wolverine is able to apply critical bleeds. And when they are there and the opponent bleeds, it dies. It is just magical to watch. So if we then look at the field yet again, and we look at the fact that we've got 252 champs in the game, if we remove from that the ones that are 100% bleed immune, we are left with a field of 222 champs. That's 88% that can be affected by bleeding. Now, sure, there are some of that 222 that might have resistance of bleed. Like I think Red Mags is resistant up to 90%. I believe, your skill champs have the ability with throwing off, debuffs, like Kingpin and Agent Venom and a bunch of others that just we can bring in. They will knock them off. But the thing is, you start applying them as you're playing with Wolverine as a horseman, and they critical. It doesn't matter if they're only there for a second and go. The damage is just about done. And then you add to the fact, if you're at C200, he's got tremendous regen. He's just a beast. And I've done some videos on my channel showing just how good Wolverine is. And to this day, I play map 6 in the alliance I'm in, and my go-to team is just basically Wolverine, APOC, and Cable. And Cable's pretty much just there, so APOC starts at 4, persistent charges, and once I've had his fight, then I'm ready to apply the Apocalypse Horseman onto Wolverine. I just use Wolverine for the entire rest of map 6, all the way, even when I come up to against a non-bleed. Like in one of the maps, I think it's the one that's got Jabari Panther in it, and the particular path I take, I have to come across Ultron. I just use Wolverine because he's still critting, he still is hard, and you can't bleed him. So he's really great. So, This is what I'm trying to get at. We take the big numbers and then you go, hey, if you frame certain characters with certain very, very good, synergies, as the two I've named, they're just great for really just obliterating all forms of particular content. I mean, one of the great things about Wolverine, because he can do critical bleeds, is you don't really need to worry about using specials. You just get up to 3 bars and stay there. And then he's got a greater chance of regenning more of the time. And likewise with Agent Venom, if you're running his particular synergy strategy, you just keep using that. If you're applying a crit, you get a bleed, and because you're Craven, he'll then convert that into a 222% or 220%, sorry, incinerate, bang, 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 and you just melt the opponents. It's really a lot of fun. Obviously, we've got, as the champs I mentioned, they're applying, damaging debuffs, but, we all sort of also know that the best champ at the moment for, purification of all debuffs, whether they're damaging or non-damaging, is Kingpin. So he's just one particular champ, and, he can do a lot. He can really, really do a lot. Obviously, you add in the Hood, or you add in Joe Fixit, then you basically guarantee 100% of the time he will convert any debuff into extra attack and then build up his rages and just make him even more devastating. So, if you had choices, this is the point I'm getting at. You're going to face opponents that are going to just spew out a lot of debuffs, or the nose will spew out debuffs and things of that nature. You got a Kingpin on your team. I'm fortunate to have a rank 5 6-star Kingpin. I think he's only about 65. But I'll tell you what, when he's there, he's great. He's really handy, gets you out of a jam, really, really does. Another great champ, of course, and some of you probably be already screaming at this and feverishly typing in the comments below. That's just an awesome champ. Remember, in the beginning, we talked about how many champs were 100% bleed immune and also 100% poison immune. So you combine them together, take out the common, factors out, which was just 15 of both, and you come to a number of 199 champions in the game are currently not bleed or poison immune to that level. They might have some resistances, but they're not 100%. So all of a sudden, that means Archangel can just chew them up. It means you can just go in there, use your parry heavies, start applying, the bleeds, let them start to touch you. You then apply your poison, hit them again, neurotoxin, happy days, and they're just finished. They're just game over. And if you're up even against, the skilled opponents who have a high chance of purification, so, you parry heavy and they knock out your stun real quick, well, all you got to do is just make sure for those difficult ones you put White Mags in your team, because he can apply, his pre-fight, and that applies, very, very well with Archangel. And it means you go from, when you do a parry heavy and you're wanting to stun, you're giving the opponent a passive stun. So a Kingpin can't shrug it off. So he's there like that, and whack, you hit him in here. He's just unreal, Archangel too. And again, notice a little bit of a theme just with just these sort of champs I'll just run through. These are some of the OG original guys early in the game. And of course, they just look really, really great now in many respects, particularly with Agent Venom and also with Wolverine. Synergies have made them that way. I think sometimes because we have so many new champs, the hype comes in, we just forget there are some unreal golden oldies, and we should never forget that. And that's another thing, just to keep that, at the top of your head there. And again, White Mags, again, if you're up against some sort of opponent where you just, you got to parry heavy and you've got to apply something, or in order to maybe take off protection because of a node, you need to parry to action your heavy to then knock them on their ass, so that then takes off whatever percentage of protection or how many protection charges they've got. A lot of things like that, and you want to make it, if you want to make it easy, just get White Mags, put him on your team. He's great. He gives you also an attack boost, and he gives you that passive stun. He is just unreal for that, and that's another champ you should just be mindful about. And the good thing is, even if you're running a good crew of champs, say rank 4 to 5, 6 stars, and you don't own a 6-star, White Mags, you have a 5-star, even a 4-star, you just chuck him in your side, assuming the game mode you're playing or the story quest doesn't, knock you out. You can still put him in there and just get, the passive stun. Very, very handy. Now, what I'll just also come and quickly talk about is going back to the 6 classes, and because of the numbers, I'm just going to run through, the one champ if you know that you need. Well, not so much you need. It's the wrong thing for me to say because you don't need anything. No one should be telling you what you need. It's just the one champ that really, really can butter up that particular class. And there are going to be others you can have as well. So this is by no all the absolute, but I think, again, from a discussion point of view, let's start, again, with science class. There are 42 of them. What do science opponents do? A lot of bloody debuffs. They're throwing stuff at you, all that sort of stuff. So who's probably the best single one champ to throw at them? It'll be Kingpin, because he can just go, give me more and more, and I'll just eat you up and finish you there. You can obviously throw in, as a notable mention, Nick Fury, particularly if he's got a Fury buff on him or you've dropped him to his, second life. And I think it's 10 charges from memory, attack charges, then he can just debuff everything as well. So you get that sort of stuff. Even Blade's really good, because if you get Blade's power up to 100 on his, 3 bars of power, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he removes debuffs 90% faster. So he's not 100%, but 90% is pretty good. Agent Venom's great, 70% chance of instantly purifying, debuffs as well. So there are alternatives, but I think if I had to pick the one champ, Kingpin, in my mind, grabs that crown. Let's go to skill. So who's the best against skill? I think the best one there has just got to be Archangel, because he absolutely will destroy everyone in skill except for one champ, and that's Korg, because Korg's bleed immune. But other than that, he will rip them all apart. They will all bleed, and they all will suffer from poison. Now, some of them are a bit difficult because they can, purify your stun, and therefore it's a bit harder for him to get in there. Otherwise, you got to time things a bit differently. But on the whole, if you're looking for a particular champ that's just on his own, not with this, with anything else, straight out of the box, he can get the job done. Mutant class, I think the best, the most obvious one's Nimrod or Nimgod. He's just made to just swallow mutants, and the more that they go on with prowesses and other things, he just keeps going. And of course, he's extremely flexible against I'll get rid of this bloody message. He's extremely flexible against opponents that do life and all that sort of stuff. Regenerate, that's it. Trying to get my words out. Who regenerate and that sort of thing. But against the mutant class, he's just great. He's really, really good, Nimrod. And of course, there are plenty of other notable ones there. I find Idum really effective. He's great. I like his cycle. Omega Red's, not Omega Red, Omega Sentinel, she's really good too. You can start really pounding stuff from her. But you had to pick the one champ, go Nimrod. Now, we've got the tech class. Who's the best against them? Well, I've just said here, basically, it's any cosmic to an extent, which is true. But obviously, notable ones would have to be Hercules, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Hulkling. You can keep picking them. They're just great cosmics that just can really, really chew up tech, particularly if they can apply some form of armor break as well. I'll tell you who I really like mucking around with. He's great. Again, an oldie but goldie, but it's Thor OG. I've got mine at rank 4 Sig 200, and I'm going off memory here, but I think his parry heavy that he does applies like a 4600, I think. I'll have to check that later on. 4600 armor break, and you can just keep applying them. And then when you either SP1 or SP2 them, you just get these huge yellow numbers. He's as boring as batshit in terms of his play, but my God, he can strip. So, there are always some, some good champs out there. Cosmic, if you're up against Cosmic guys, who's the one you can pick? Now, everyone's going to go Doom, 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 but I think it's Rintra, because he applies his neutralize basically just in his attack phase, plus, if the opponent's attacking you, I think it's 60% of the chance you can apply a neutralize, and of course, that neutralizes buffs that are there, whereas Dooms, you got to slap them and put a stagger up, and then when they then recreate a buff, then if the stagger's there, it'll knock it out and nullify it. So I think Rintra just covers more bases there. I mean, you go up against, opponents that are in the cosmic class, like Hulkling and Null and, all those sort of guys. He's easy. Just, get through them. The hardest thing, to be perfectly honest, is once you've rooted them and you're piling into them and you're building up those raptures, his power meter is rocketing past, and you just want to try and action that SP2. And he's just great. And I know there's been a bit of talk about, they're playing around with him, but I don't think his basic mechanics and all that sort of stuff are really going to change. And then, of course, we touched on this earlier with Mystics. The number one go-to guy that just makes Mystics nothing burgers is Human Torch. We all know that. Don't pretend there's others that are superior. It's Human Torch. He's there. I'm told, I don't have a Silk's pretty good at it and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure as the game progresses, there will be more that come in that will replicate. But right now, his kit is just devastating. And, that's, again, an example of just trying to get people's thinking. I mean, you've got a lot of opponents in this game, a lot of 252 opponents or champions in the game, and you're trying to say to yourself, well, where should I be ranking up? And if you look at, like I'm trying to say, by the numbers and what X-Champ can do against so many numbers, you've got to start to think and go, you know what, I got this one guy and he will just completely annihilate all these people that aren't bleeding poison in me and being Archangel. So why wouldn't I want to, have him ranked up and have him ready to go and part of my arsenal? That makes a lot of sense in my opinion. So that's the real underlying current for why I've spent the time to sort of do this particular video. You've seen me flash up every now and then the table and other bits and pieces, so it's all there, and if you need, you can just pause it. But again, it's just to get you thinking about, there's 252 champs, and what's the best way to thread the needle to try and take out as many of these as I possible by building up a roster. Obviously, as time goes on, and you've got, I've got at the moment like 4 rank 5, 6 stars and 1 rank 2, 7 stars. So I'm building up, I'm getting there. I've got probably, 27 rank 4s and God knows how many rank 3s and all that stuff. So, I've got a good breadth in my roster, which is great. And that just is mainly more so from variation of boredom and all that sort of stuff, because you do get a bit bored with, champs and stuff. And just remember also with this particular game, there's also just that one particular champ we know, and he's called Hercules. And you just can use him on any class. It doesn't really matter. You don't even read the nodes half the time because of that immortality that he has. He's just that good. Especially when he's at SIG 200, he's got, 9-second immortality, and every time you use the specials and all that stuff, it pauses it. And the amount of times he's saved me and probably you, if you've got him, having to spend on revives and stuff. I mean, he's the ultimate brute force champion. He's probably helped more people get through Eternity of Pain than anybody else, and he's just fantastic. So yes, I've mentioned certain champs for certain classes, but if you've got Hercules, you can just insert there too, and he basically does it. Even if he's up against Mystic guys, he still smashes them, especially once you've got his feats of strength all ranked up and he's at 12. He's just another sort of champ on another level there, but it's good to know where some others are. Anyway, I've been going on for 26 minutes plus what I did for the intro. It's a long time. It's a long time for you to give up and to watch this particular video. I hope you've learned something. I hope it's helped. If it has helped you, and you got mates in your alliance and that, feel free to forward the link to them so they can watch it. And it's just trying to do something a bit different that's outside the normal, watch this gameplay, belt the crap out of someone, and watch someone like me gloat about ranking this and that. They're all a lot of fun to see because you like to see what people are doing. But this is just an analysis of MCOC by the numbers. So I really hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for putting your comments down below. Make sure you smash that like button. That helps as well. And I'm trying to build up my pool of subscribers, just trying to get up there slowly but surely. So if you can help there, that'd be even better. So again, take it easy. And until next time, we'll see you later. Ciao.